sorry, not the remedial measure, but we did the detection part. And three of the methods which are given in the Gujarati, we are left with those. So first, let's complete those methods once and then come to the remedial part. So yesterday, for the detection, we did Glaser test, Spearman rank correlation method, then Brishpagan-Godfrey test, and White heteroscedasticity test. So besides that, there are other methods like this particular method, Conquer-Bassett test. In this particular test, the thing is that in place of all the independent variables, why not we can try to look this U hat square regression with Y hat square. Means directly we can see this. Now this Y hat include all the X, right? If I can give you this example, let's just try to understand this, what we are doing here. This is another type of formal testing method. So here in place of testing relation between U hat or U hat square with all the X variables, indirectly we can check this relation with the Y hat. So in this particular test, they tested this thing with the Y hat square. And if the coefficient of Y hat square is statistically significant, it means Y hat square is statistically significant. When this relation is statistically significant, it means this may be any of the independent variable is significantly explaining the changes in the residual. And that's the case of heteroscedasticity. So this is the another method. Now for this method in a Stata software, first you have to run the simple OLS, and then you have to predict the Y hat. After predicting the Y hat, just generate a new variable, that's a Y hat square, and then run regression. Before that, predict U hat residual as well, take its square. Now run a regression of U hat square with Y hat square. Let me first do it with the, okay, take a same example, this wage and education. So first, simply we have to run the regression. Wage on education. So it might be any independent variable. It might be more than one independent variable. Only for simplicity, I am taking one independent variable. You can take n number of independent variables. Then you have to, for this particular model, we need two components, that U hat square and Y hat square. So first find Y hat. For Y hat, you have to predict Y hat. It will give you a Y hat. I already have, so I'm not running this command. Then we also need U hat. So predict U hat, comma residual. It will give you U hat. Then take a square of U hat, that is generate U hat, name you can give any name, square, that is, sorry, this was incomplete, equal to U hat multiplied by U hat. Multiply by U hat, that's U hat square. Similarly, find Y hat square, generate Y hat square equal to Y hat into Y hat. So I don't have Y hat, so I have to generate it. Generate Y hat square equal to Y hat multiplied by Y hat. So let's cross check all these values first. we have here u hat, then it's sorry u hat square, then it's y hat square. This is our next regression that we have to run to test this relation, whether they are associated. If they're associated, it means there is a heteroscedasticity. If this coefficient of y hat square is statistically significant, it means there is a heteroscedasticity. So you can just run this in the Stata just for equational explanation. Let me explain you it with this. What exactly we are doing here? Okay, for the time with cat open, let me do it. Regress u hat square with y hat square. Now we need to worry about the coefficient of y hat square, and you can see here it is statistically significant at 1%, 5%, all the level of significance. So it means y hat square is significantly explaining change in u hat square. And what y hat is? Okay, the time we're taking time. I can write here. Your y hat is actually all your coefficients. Like here we have this coefficient constant that was here minus 0.90, then positive value education coefficient, that's 0.54, and then if you can multiply it with all the x values, means here the variable is education. So if you can multiply this for all the education's levels, you will get this y hat. This y hat. This is your intercept coefficient plus coefficient of slope, and then multiply with all the education levels, you will get this y hat. So this y hat is from independent variable, right? So if let's suppose we have a 5 independent variables, so y hat can include all the independent variables. So it's simple rather than using all the x and their combinational forms. Simply you can just use y hat square and run the regression with the u hat square as a dependent variable. So this coefficient of y hat square is significant here. So we can say this is a case of heteroscedasticity. Is this example clear to everyone? This is Conger-Bassett test for heteroscedasticity. Anyone any doubt in this method? Is it clear? This method. I think this method is given in Kourtzianis and Gujarati. Yeah, in both the books. Gujarati, I'm sure. Kourtzianis, I'm not sure, because heteroscedasticity is not given in detail in Kourtzianis. It's given in Fultrige and Madala and Gujarati. Okay, so the another test. Yeah, gold flag contest. This test is okay, another form of trying to identify whether the variance is changing after a certain level or not. So what they do actually, they divide the data into two different groups and then try to look upon the variances of this both the groups. Are they more or less same, or their difference is statistically significant? That's the simple idea behind this particular gold fund contest. The thing is, first you have to arrange the x variable in ascending order. Then you have to arrange it into two different groups. Let's take example. Limitation is only simple limitation what I found is that this test won't tell you that, although it's not the purpose of all these tests to identify that which variable is creating a problem. Since y hat is including all the variables, right? X1, X2, X3, whatever you have in the independent variables. So most of the test, if you can realize it, trying to identify the relation with the u hat, that's the cause of change in the variation with the change in the x levels of x in the regression line. But these are not trying to identify which of the independent variable is creating a problem or which of the form of the independent variable. It might be that x square is creating a problem. It might be under root x is creating a problem. So that's the limitation. But that's limitation for all the methods. We can't just say that any specific limitation to this method only. So the second thing is that this y hat is including all the x variables. So sometimes that it might be a case that any particular x that is creating a problem, let's suppose that x is not statistically significant with the y variable. So in y hat, we are including all those x variables as well. Means we are testing their relations with u hat as well, although they might not be statistically significant, and we don't need to worry about those variables which are not statistically significant. So unnecessarily we are taking all the variables, but that's the limitation for all the cases, because in all these methods they took all the x independent variables. Like y test took not only the independent variable but all their forms like square or multiplicative, like Dushmagan test as well. So that's the limitation with all, but there is no specific limitation for this method only. That is there anything that's not. This is the improvement. Actually, this the process of this method is improvement of one method on the another. Means if you start with the, I think Park test, yeah, then Glaser test, then Spearman, then Goldfand, then Dushpagan, then White heteroscedasticity, then Conker Bassett. So these are the improvement of one method over the another method. So they try to overcome the limitation of the previous methods. These methods are actually in the sequence. So if you read them and study them in detail and note down their time periods, so that was one method over the another method. So one trying to overcome the limitation of the others. I know that thing you have to identify means that you have to do some hit and trial methods that which x is creating a problem. And once you can identify that particular x, that particular independent variable, then it's easy for you to apply a remedial measure for heteroscedasticity problem. So that's what actually in the end we are going to do in the remedial process. So to apply a remedy, same like the multicollinearity, I told you that before any solution you need a cause of that problem. Similarly, in the heteroscedasticity, we have to find the cause of the problem, means we have to identify which particular x is creating the problem. And the difficult situation it might be when it's more than one, although that's very rare case where you have two independent variables which creating this particular problem, then it's quite difficult to find a solution. But if it's only one particular variable or any of the form of that particular variable, then it's quite easy to apply a remedial measure. Okay, so in this method, Goldfand contest, here first you have to divide the data in two different parts. Just take a first this example from the textbook, and then I can tell you how you can do this with the Stata software. Let's suppose this is the data you have. First, you have to arrange your x variable in the ascending order. Once you arrange the x in ascending order, then you have to omit this central values. Now, this is the some subjective thing here. this is like in this particular method, it is suggested that how many observations you will omit. So if you go by this literature, you will find that if you have a 30 observations, omit central 4 observations, and if you have a 60 observations, omit 10 central observations, and similarly this proportion will increase if you have a large number of sample size. Now just try to get this idea, miss, what it means, that what you are trying to omit. Still it's not working, I think. Okay, let's wait for it, because with diagram it will give you more clarity about this particular step. But we actually, in this method, what they have done, they divided. Actually the thing is quite simple, that yesterday what I explained you with the diagram, that with the increase in the level of x variable, like in this data we did this scatter of two-way scatter of u hat, and let's do it with, okay, u hat is absolute is 0. Take a u hat square with y hat. It's taking a time, I don't know why. Still it's running. I suggest you this thing, that whenever you run a command in Stata, let it be complete that command. Means don't try to write any other command, because we are working with the pirated version, so it may hang your system. So don't try to jump from one step to another while you run a command. Okay, so in this example, like you can see, the variance in these education levels, initial education levels, is quite different than these education levels, higher education levels. So this method is trying to first find the variance of these two different levels. That's why they're dividing this data into two different parts and just omitting central observations. And they're going to compare these two variances. Are their differences statistically significant, like what we do in the F ratio, comparison of variances? If that's statistically significant, that difference, it means it might be due to heteroscedasticity. So that's the idea behind this particular test. But the thing is, how many central observations you will omit? Like in this particular example, they omitted 4 observations because their sample size is 30 in this case. Now first you have to omit this observation, means first attend the x independent variable in ascending order. Accordingly, y will automatically get changed. Means you have to follow the order of only independent variable, x variable. But again, this is problematic, because in this particular case where I was doing this assignment, I have not applied this particular test because of these two different limitations. First, how many observations? Let's suppose I have 2 lakh observations. So how many observations I have to omit, central observations? The second thing is, if I have more than one independent variable, then according to which independent variable I have to arrange it in an ascending order. Is it x1, is it x2, or x3? So these are the few problems with this particular method. So that's the one. These are the limitations of this method. This is actually among the previous, means in the starting phase of this developing methods in this heteroscedasticity, and later on other methods try to overcome all these limitations. But just to give you this, that so that you can understand this method. Okay, omit the central observations. After omitting the central observations, you have to run 2 different regressions. For first group and for the second group. And then you have to find the residual sum of square for both the groups. Definitely for the higher group, it's going to be high residual sum of square. So for that you have to, why it's higher? Because for higher values, if you take a U hat square, definitely because if regression line. But the thing is that you have to take this precaution. Is it your relation among dependent and dependent is positive or negative? So accordingly, you have to adjust the numerator and denominator. Still, it's taking time. I don't know. Might be slow. Okay. Vision education example I'm taking. So let's suppose they have a positive relation. This is our regression line. So what I am saying is that the residual which this U hat gap between actual y and the y hat, these values are definitely higher than these values, right? Because it's a lower level. So in the F ratio, I told you this thing that in the numerator, keep the value which have a higher value. So here you have to keep the residual sum of square of the second group. This is your second group, this is your first group. And central observations you have to omit. This is your X variable that you have to arrange in ascending order. And these central observations you have to omit. Like in out of 30, you have to omit 4 observations. This now you divided this data set into 2 different parts, first part and second part. Now you have to run a regression for this first part. Then for a second part, the variables will remain same. Wage equal to beta 1 hat plus beta 2 hat education plus U hat. Similarly for the second group, and then you have to take a residual sum of square from the first part and from the second part. But again, I'm telling you that if you have more than one independent variable, then which independent variable you have to take as in ascending order, and accordingly you have to run the regression for 2 different groups. That thing you have to is, as you can do hit and trial methods, just try to identify which axis is creating a problem and try to work with that according to that independent variable. Then residual sum of square of first group divided by degree of freedom. And if this F ratio is greater than critical value of this F table at these certain degrees of freedom at a particular level of significance, in that case, what it means that the gap between these residual sum of square is statistically significant, and that means this change in the residual sum of square in these 2 different groups is indicating that it's not a constant variance of residual. It might be changing. In this case, it might be increasing from one level to another level. So that's indicating a heteroscedasticity. Let's see what they have done here. Compute this ratio. I would say it's the same as the F ratio. Divide them with their respective degrees of freedom. Here the degrees of freedom are n minus central omitted values. Divide by 2 because we divided this group in 2 different parts. And as we always minus it from a parameters, that here we have beta 1 and beta 2. So it's minus 2. So if it's a 30 sample size, then it means 30 minus 4 omitted values, that is 26. 26 divided by 2 is 13. 13 minus 2, so it's 11. So 11 degree of freedom for numerator and denominator. Let's see what they have done. Yes, their degree of freedom are 11. This is their residual sum of square for first group and second group. For second, it's higher, so they kept it in the numerator. Now, yeah, this thing I was telling you, this point is important. But if you have a negative relation, like let's suppose you have a negative relation. And this is your regression line. So now here you have to think is that, is this residual sum of square is higher or this one? Because accordingly, you have to keep the thing in numerator and denominator. So just think which one is higher. The one is saying this one. Okay, Gagan. And why, Gagan? Now, what is u hat? U hat square is from u hat, right? So we need to know about the u hat. U hat is these actual y values minus the regression line, that is your first coefficient plus second coefficient multiplied by x values. It has highest negative values. No, negative values for what means? This is the regression, like if it's a negative, then yeah, this coefficient is going to be negative. It's going to be negative. So this is actual y values, whatever values you have here. But think that these y values, these actual values, definitely are lower than, because this is this particular range of y, right? And this is this particular range of y. So I'm comparing it first and then second. Y minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat and x variable. So for first group, so y values are higher for this group, right? This lowercase. So for this, so from the y, it means it's going to be high. Now, second thing is these two values will remain same. There is no question about, means they are not going to decide which one is higher or lower. Now thing is with the x. X values are going to be higher here because this is the, for x, this is this particular range, right? And this is the lower range of x. So for x, this is the higher part and this is the lower part. And if you multiply this x value with your beta and it is a negative, so overall impression is like y minus beta 1 hat plus beta 2 hat x, right? Y minus beta 1 hat plus beta 2 hat x variable. So in this group, this is highest x values, they are going to be add. So it might that they overcome this, the higher y value in this first group. So that, but that also depend upon the beta coefficient. Means if your beta coefficient is in a fraction, then even it's a positive and x is a higher value, that fraction will reduce this value to a fraction only. Means, and in that case it might be not always a fraction, but it that going to reduce that value, and that might reduce this overall value. The simple rule is that just see out of these two groups, which group has highest residual sum of square? That group you have to keep in the numerator. Whichever one is higher, that you have to keep in the numerator and other in the denominator. So don't get confused that is it second one or which one, because these are these alternative situations and that may decide which one is higher. So either you can cross check these all the calculations or just simply see which one have the residual sum of square. It might be first group or second group. You don't need to worry about. Just the rule is you have to keep highest part in the numerator. So that's what I asked you. Is because this there is no single answer to it because it depends upon the beta coefficient as well. No doubt these x values are higher, and if we add it, it's higher value, but that also depends upon the beta fraction. So here the x at the low values when also depend upon the y. But more or less, Gagan is right that you are going to get residual sum of square second one as the higher value. The maximum time you're going to get this as a higher. So that you have to keep in the numerator. So similarly they did, and this is the ratio 4.0 and its critical value is 2.82. It's greater than critical value. So we have to reject the null hypothesis which say that these residual sum of square are equal. So we reject it and we accept the alternate hypothesis, which means these residual sum of squares are not equal. That means there is a heteroscedasticity. So like this manner, you have to apply heteroscedasticity test. It's a Goldfland-Quant test. So these are the test methods, but I told you the limitation of this method. One, how many central values, and second, which of the x variables, means according to which x variable we have to arrange data in independent in ascending order if we have a more than one independent variable. Then the last, this Park test. This is in the very beginning, means I think the first method in this heteroscedasticity, even I think before Glaser test, is the Park test. But as I told you in the beginning, there are so many limitations with these methods, and new methods try to overcome these limitations. In this particular method, they try to look relation in this particular form. Like this variance is changing and it has three different components. One is the random component, one is the some constant component, and one of the component is because of change in the x variables. So to run a regression for this expression, you have to take a log on both sides, and if you take a log on both sides, this equation will get changed into this equation. So now you can run a regression on it and get the estimates of error term. Now, these sigma squares values are actually, you have to get it from a residual scale. Let's see if there is any practical example in the Gujarati or not. Yeah, it was in the beginning, I think. Yeah, it's given here. Estimation and heteroscedastic error terms, econometric volume, October 1966. And other methods are developed after this particular time period in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So in this method, the assumption is that this particular change in the variation is because of these three components. So if you can run a regression, now for this particular component, you have to take a u hat square because we don't know this value, right? You only know from the regression u hat, and you just take a u hat square and run a regression. And if this is expression is statistically significant, it means there is a heteroscedasticity. Like they have this simple regression. First, you have to run a simple regression, then obtain the u hat, take its square. That's now dependent. Now again, take its log as well. That's the dependent variable. Run this regression on a log of independent variable. For example, we have a u hat square, right? Now next we need for this test is log of u hat square. So for that we have to take generate log of u hat square, that is equal to log of u hat square. So this is our dependent variable now, this particular variable, and independent variable is log of independent variable. That's our education. Just take a log of education. It is equal to log. You can either use log or ln, both will give you log values for education. Now we have to run this regression. For that, just cross check. Is there any adjustment is required for constant term? No. For intercept, there is no adjustment. Now you can just simply run a regression for this expression, that is regress log of u hat square as dependent variable and log of independent variable. And now what we have to see is that is this particular relation is statistically significant. In this case, the t value is too small, and that means it's not statistically significant. In our case, it's statistically significant, so it means there is a heteroscedasticity. So in all these tests which we applied in this Bayesian education, and I told you in the beginning with the graph, there might be because of heteroscedasticity, this change in the variation or higher variation in u hat in higher values, that's indicating heteroscedasticity. So in all the tests we found this heteroscedasticity, right? So this is Park test. So is there any limitation to this particular test? Yeah, in our okay. If your original model is already in a log form, like in this assignment, I have this answers log, so I already have a log form model in a log form. So I can't just apply another log on that only previous original log value. So in that case, you have to avoid it. Second, this array term may not satisfy OLS assumptions and may itself be a heterostatic because this array term which we have here in this particular model may follow the chi-square distribution, and it might not follow the OLS assumptions. So although I'm not sure about this second limitation, I have to go it in this detail, but first means in certain models you can't apply this particular test, and that limitation, that which x is creating a problem. If you have more than one x independent variable, then how can you test it? So it means you have to test it individually with all the x variables. That may tell you that which of the x is creating a problem. If it's any particular single x variable, then Trammell measure is easy, but if it's more than one, then it's not easy to get rid of the heteroscedasticity problem. Okay, so these are the detection methods. So after detection method, then it's the question of remedial measure, that if we have a heteroscedasticity and we know that consequence is that we might find a high variance in standard errors, it might reduce t ratios or may increase wider confidence intervals. That means hypothesis testing is not correct. So that's the problem which heteroscedasticity will create. So then you have to, you might need to be apply some remedial measures. Now, in theoretical sense, the remedial measure is that try to identify the factor which is creating this particular problem and get rid of that particular uh, factor which is creating this problem. How you can do that? First, just try to understand this remedial measure, that how this remedial measure will work. Then I'll come to these options that which you can try to get rid of the heterostaticity problem. The process is solution. Yeah, this is the solution. This is the derivational solution. Means let's just try to understand how it works. Let's suppose you know the cause of variation. Means you know that what thing is creating this problem. Then just divide all the variables with that particular variation. Means anything that's creating a changing the variation, if you divide by that variation, it will get removed, right? That's the actually solution we are going to do. That first we are going to identify that which thing is creating this change in the variation, and if we divide by that variation, it will remove your problem of heterostaticity from your model. First, just see this derivation thing. Let's suppose this variation is because of sigma I square. Just hypothetical, just think that you know this, that what is this variation which is creating a problem. Then just divide by this variation. Now, if you divide by this particular variation, now your ui square is actually this ui square is divided by this variation, right? So if you divide this ui with this sigma I, then you will get this constant value. And that's what actually we want, right? We want this as a constant value, not a varying value. That's the case of heterostaticity. So if you divide by that particular variation, now you will get a constant value. And for this process, we say generalized least square process. Now, this is the case where hypothetically I told you just think that you know the cause of variation. But generally we don't know this. So what is the solution then? First, take this some example where we know this cause of the variation, and we can just divide by this variation all the model, all the variable of the model. Yeah, this one. Square root of that variation, not the squared values. Because if you divide with the squared values, this thing, uh, your dependent independent variable, you will get values in a fraction. So squared values are too high. So that totally change your variable means your model. We only have to divide with that under root of that. So just take a one practical example of this thing. Is it possible that when we have this case where we know this variation, so take this example first. They have this particular data where this is something like let's suppose we have a wages. Okay, first take the case where our model where we have a wages with the education level, right? Education level, it might be from 0, 1, 2, 3 till 18 they have in the data. And for all the individuals, different wages they are having. So in this case, you don't know this variance, right? That which is creating this problem. But let's suppose this is not an individual data. You have a district-wise data or state-wise or country-wise or village-wise. And you have average wages like for Chandigarh, Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, UP, Rajasthan, you have average wages. And these wages you have corresponding to education level. Like for first education level, then second, then third and fourth. So you have average wages for all the education levels. But here you can find the variation in wages, right? Because these are the average wages. This is a mean, right? So if you have a mean for that particular state, like let's take it's a Chandigarh. So you can find that variation, right? This variation, this sigma I for I square for this particular Chandigarh, you can easily find this. How much is the variation in wages in a Chandigarh? Then for Punjab, so this is the case where the sigma I square is known. You got this point? That when we have this case, then when we can say this sigma I square is known. Actually, when I studied this heterostaticity chapter first time and I studied this example, from the book I got this point that okay, what it means, but in practical I never got this point that when will be this case that when we know this value. But when I done these regressions for various different purposes, then I just realized the simple point is that whenever we have any particular dependent variable in form of like that's not a individual data, but it might be a some state level, district wise data or country wise data. And if that particular number is from different individuals, because this is something that for one individual, their individual wage, for second individual, their respective wage. So we don't know the variances. But this is for Chandigarh for all the individuals. So then we know the variation around the mean for them. So that's the case where we have a case of where we know we say sigma I square is known. Is it clear that when we have this case of sigma I square, then just take a under root of it sigma I and divide the values with this sigma I, like what they did here. They divided this dependent variable and independent variable with under root of sigma I square, and then after that they run the regression. So these are the results after dividing with this value. And this is the case now where there is no heteroscedasticity because we already divided with that variation, so that get reduced, so there is no heteroscedasticity. And this is the actual unweighted actual where you can find that t ratios are quite high comparatively. Sorry, yeah, the results are totally different. So this is where we have a case of where we say sigma I square is known. Is it clear? It's when you have to say that sigma I square is known. I hope you got this point. Means if you have individual data, or if you have a, it might be that for district you only have one specific number. Like geographical area. It's not some average, right? For a district, there is specific geographic area of the district or population. Population is one specific number of that district. Then you can't apply this, right? Only you can apply when your dependent variable, the numbers are in form of average. Then only you can calculate the variances and you can divide with them. Then you have this case of where variance is known. So Ramdell measure is simple, just divide with that, you will get the solution. Is it clear? like what I did in this assignment, just divided with that. Okay. There another method which these days this I think softwares are providing it. Yeah, robust standard error. This method is the first method is clear. Anyone any doubt? Second method is just simply run your regression like wage and education, but not simple standard errors, but with the robust standard error. Now try to see the difference in the results. Initial, these are the coefficients and these are the standard 0.05 and 0.68. Now it's more than that, 0.06 and 0.72. Although again it's significant, but now you might ask that what is top robust standard error. To go in its detail, it need a separate lecture, but it's quite a detailed topic. But I can share this one. Yeah, one example. You can go this particular site in the internet, and here you will find something in a matrix form that you might get some idea that what this actually this robust standard error is in this particular form. It's different than what we have done in the derivation for the variance of beta. There is some adjustment here in this particular middle part, and if you Google it, you will find it as they will say it as sandwich, and this sandwich actually for this particular part in middle this part and in the side they have bread and meat. So you can just go this document, try to understand it, or any other standard. Although I don't think textbooks are providing it. Means this Persianis, Vatala, Gujarati in the Hysterostaticity chapter. I don't think they provided this detail. Yeah, Gujarati has written that it's beyond the scope of this book. So for this, you have to go through in detail. But actually, these standard errors are quite higher than the original standard errors in these adjustments they do in the variances. That also you can apply as a remedial measure, but after that you have to see whether this heteroscedasticity is removed or not. But the other thing that I'm telling that the generalized least square method that just divide by the variable which is creating a problem. Like take this another example. Let's suppose you identified that the cause of change in the residual is because of the x square. Means you identified that is because of the x square. So just divide by this x variable and run the regression. And you will get constant variation or constant variance of residual. Means whatever variable thing is creating a problem, divide with that. Like here, let's suppose, but this is assumption, right? Means you are taking this assumption that change in this residual you had square is because of some constant part, and the other changing part, the cause for other changing part is x square. Like here we have an education variable. So first take a square of education. So if you think that this expected UI square is some constant part and change in other changing part because of xi square, so divide your regression equation with xi variable. This is dividing all the variables with the xi and run the regression. Then see the changes in your results. So if it's you think with the xi square, then only you have to divide with the under root of that particular part with the xi. I think there is also a direct command for it. Yeah. AW. Okay, let's try if it will work. Regress education, wage with education, and apply weight. Sorry for this noise. This is actually outside the home. A wait. Let me try. It might work. I'm not sure. Otherwise, manually you have to apply. And this is, oh, sorry. First, we have to take a reciprocal of education. Let's generate a variable that is reciprocal of education. That is 1 by education. And that variable, let me take as a weight variable. Equal to this reciprocal variable. Yeah, it will work. Now see the changes. These are the standard errors now. Okay, now the thing is, cross check, is the heteroscedasticity get removed? So how you can rectify now? Again, you have to predict y hat. Let me drop previous y hat because otherwise it will say we already have a y hat. So predict y hat and okay, u hat also. So I'm removing u hat square as well. And what I need predict u hat residue. And I need square of this residue. So generate u hat square we need. So square of u hat equal to u hat into u hat. Now let me see the graph. Two-way scatter this u hat square with y hat. Let's see, is this problem get reduced? Not up to that extent. There is still heteroscedasticity, but if you can type a command of white heteroscedasticity test or Brishpagan, okay, it won't support means in this model. So let's start with the PSTAT, that's Brishpagan test, but I think they won't take an applied model. Still there is a heteroscedasticity. So it is not removed even after applying this reciprocal of the as a weight variable. So it means might be our assumption is wrong. So then you have to take another assumption that this is assumption when this is the case. If variance is increased in this particular form, then it might be because of the x square. Then you have to go with another assumption where we have to take a x that's this particular form. So let's see if this will work or not. Then we have to do it with the under root. So let me clear it first. I have to drop. Okay, let me drop this y hat u hat square. And now what we need, we need reciprocal and it's under root value, right? So generate square root of this reciprocal value. No, it's square root of the original value. Generate square root of education. It's equal to square root of education. Then we have to take a reciprocal of it. That is generate square root reciprocal. It is 1 by square root of education. Now apply this as a weight. That is reciprocal of under root education. These are the results. Predict y hat, predict u hat, take its square, run a graph. Still, I think this problem is there. Chi-square is getting reduced, but problem is still there. So similarly, you have to apply this all similar combination. It's not that you definitely get succeed to reduce this heteroscedasticity. That's not the case. That never think it that you will get rid of these problems easily. Let's see what we have done in the assignments. Yeah, here still problem of heteroscedasticity is existing. If you're applying weights, it's very important to relate the ui square with xi or square or some any other form. Otherwise, heteroscedasticity will not remove. In this case, this relationship is not clear, therefore still there is a heteroscedasticity. So means in this assignment, I tried all this combination, but still that problem was there. So similarly, it means it's not getting reduced. Although we can see in these all the results, stranded array is getting reduced. Like here it's 0.05, 0.64. Here it's 0.04, 0.55 means this square was working. And in the original form, robust, it's get increased. In the original form, it's 0.05 and 0.68. So means you have to see when the standard error is getting decreased. So that you have to apply as remedial measures. Means next you have to apply after under root. Means if this is the relation, then you have to apply under root. Then you might apply this expected y as a remedial solution. Means you have to apply with the expected y. That's actually a y hat. You might use y hat as a weight, then run the regression, or log-log transformation. That's also one solution. But if you already have a log-log model, then you can't apply this model. So means these are the possible solutions you can try. So let's try one another solution. Y hat. I don't know. It means it definitely solve the case, but let's try it. Again, let me clear it. Run the regression. Now predict y hat. This y hat, sorry, it's already there. So let me first draw it. So predict y hat. Now this y hat we have to assume as a, we have to divide it with all the regression model with this y hat. So let me apply it as a weight. Standardize increased. Run the test is bridge program. It getting reduced, but still there is a heteroscedasticity. So means by this method you have to try it. Or here I'm using the weight, like I'm applying weight to all the regression equation. Oh, sorry, you have to apply reciprocal of the y hat, not the y hat. Yes, yeah, will be true. Means we have to take a reciprocal. It is 1 by y hat and apply it as a weight. Yeah, standardized is reduced. Let's see it to up to some. Still heteroscedasticity is there. Let's see the graphical relation. Y hat is already defined. Predict u at square. No, still. Now you can do another methods, but let me tell you one or two things here. First, try to get rid of these outliers, because in original graph, if this graph, you can see the original graph in this particular case, wage and education. Because one of the thing is that, as I told you in the multicollinearity as, first you have to find the cause of that problem, then only you can get rid of that particular problem. The thing is, here outliers are two-ended. First, in the beginning as well, these are the outliers not representing this particular data. And the higher side as well, there are outliers. So it might be because of this, and at these type of outliers which are at the higher level, they increase this U hat tremendously. Means this the weightage of these values is too high. So first try to get rid of these outliers and this beginner outliers. Although still uh, I know because in the this case I told you this in the dummy variable. Actually, this particular case is of the two different regression lines. If you remember that case, that this slope is not constant. Means this is something in this particular case. The thing is that we have to run two different regressions. Means that might be the case of problem that here we are not understanding, and that might be creating. Like I told you, for this particular first part, the average is different. Means this regression line, and for the other part, the regression line is different. And that we did in the dummy variable case. So if that might be a case, but if that's true, then it means if I run regression for this particular part and I'll get rid of this outliers, definitely I won't get any heteroscedasticity problem here, because then I know the range of that particular thing, and that is constant. Now you can see here, if you get rid of these uh, all these outliers, then you can see that this variance is more or less constant, right? And for this part as well, if you get rid of these outliers in this particular regression, then you can see this variance is more or less constant. And if there might be a small change in the variation with these remedial measures, you can easily get rid of that. So the thing is, this particular data set, we are trying to put a one single thing, but that means what actually we are doing that point is that we are taking this regression line. This is our regression line, right? And in this regression line, as we know that that variation is in this particular level, in initial beginner levels, this variation is not getting matched with this level, right? That's what the cause here for this heteroscedasticity. So even if I apply this remedial thing, uh, we are not getting rid of this heteroscedastic. So that's the thing you have to keep in mind, that it's the problem in the first hand. Maybe our regression line is not good. Well, with that's what I told you. The median case is plus minus 1.5 interquartile range. Uh, that that you have to this box plot diagram that we did. You have to find the extra values out of that, and just apply a keep if, or give them some coding for all those values. Give them a code number, like give a 99,999, and apply a command for all other keep if, and then you can run the regression for uh, without outliers. So this is the situation here. So that's why even you can apply this simple remedial measures which are given in the book, that won't help you out. So that's many times, like in this assignment I tried this, but this assignment is from the IHBS data 2005 4 5, and that's I was taking this income and uh, food expenditure changes. Sorry, this noise is too high. So in that case, I was taking this in the assignment, the data for the Himachal only, and even after I applied this all this, but heterostaticity was not removed. So that might be a case. So similarly, and just so I hope now situation is clear to all of you. One second, guys. Okay, sorry, actually, there was some construction activity outside, so I requested them for a time, just give us a 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, so Pallavi is saying that it's not getting. Will we go to that lecture, box plot diagram? There I told you how to get rid of outliers. Means first you have to find the outliers. For outliers, go by this median technique, plus minus box plot diagram technique, plus minus 1.5 interquartile range. That will give you the outliers. Then give some code for those outliers. That's just you have to apply a recode command here. For example, let's suppose in the wages you applied this box plot technique and you find that more than 15 are the means the wages more than 15 are the outlier case. So you just have to recode them as a give a just recode for more than 18, just give any code like 9999, and next time just run a regression without all those values. So just apply a keep if command, that regression wage education if wage is less than equal to, let's suppose the 15 is the standard for outliers, so 15. So then in that case, let's suppose here you can see this 15. Let's suppose with this interquartile range, you will get this 15 as a uh, benchmark criteria for outliers. So if I run a regression less than 15, means simply what you have to do, just run a regression, this simple regression you are running here. Okay, first I have to close it, otherwise it won't allow me. Don't say. Just run this regression again. If wage is less than 15. It means now you are running a without this component. So your regression is now only for this particular range. Well, I hope now you get this point, that how to find the outliers and how to run a regression without outliers. Okay, so in this case, I was telling that actually the situation is that what we are doing, we are running this regression line, this long part, just see it. But do you think this line is representative of this data? In dummy variable case, I took it I break it down two different parts because I thought for this part, the behavior is totally different, and for this part, behavior is totally different. So this single regression line, although you can see this thing, interesting part is if you can see here, that from where it is starting, this first regression line, this particular part, right? This regression line. And from where this second end of the second regression line. So in the end, in the beginning, this line is joining this regression line, and in the end, it's ending with the first regression line. So that's actually the process of regression, right? Above the regression line and below the regression line. So you might not get this idea that it might be that we need some separate part after this particular level. The significant change is happening, behavior is changing, and we didn't realize it not only from this regression model, but not theoretically we are not able to understand, and we put them uh, in a collaborative form. So that might create a new problem for you. Like here we are facing now problem of heteroscedasticity. So that's what I was telling you in the beginning, that these things you have to keep in mind before running the regression model. That are you sure about your model? The way you collected the data means, is it that now you have let's suppose this is the we collected the data and we know that there are these outliers and all, and we put them in one regression. So is it a correct measure? Means that you have to think. Then you have to think that is this regression line is the better one, or is this two different parts? Is this one is and that you have to justify with the theory as well. Means it's not that from after running this analysis you have to decide it. No, you have to get satisfied with the theoretical answers for these two things. So this is heteroscedasticity. Uh, this was the second time I tried this different example, wage and education, and still we are not got to the final solution that how to get rid of this particular problem. So it means some other adjustments are required, like I told you, maybe outliers, maybe these two different regressions we are trying to fix in one single regression line that's not appropriate for I think for this particular case. So these things you have to do, and these things are subjective, means it's not I can say that this is the reference to Gujarati and this is the solution. No, the method is I told you that first find the cause of the variation and divide with that variation, you will get rid of that variation. That thing is simple, but the another important thing, just keep it remember, if you apply this thing, in Stata you can apply, we applied this thing, right? But what will be the explanation for that? Like we divide this wage divided by education. Now this is our final regression, right? This model is wage by education, and here this constant term divided by a wage, or reciprocal. Now the variable is, this is now intercept or constant, and this is a slope now reciprocal of education. So theoretically think about it. Is there any some variable which we say 1 by reciprocal of education, or is it some variable where we say wage by education? Is that make some theoretical sense? If not, then you have to think about it. Can you apply that remedy? From my side, answer is no, because your final regression is not allowing you to explain that theoretically. What will be the interpretation for that? That won't make any sense, right? So in that case, you have to think it about from the very beginning, that is it like that our model is some incorrect form, or we are not able to understand that this change of cause in the behavior after a certain level, and we just run a simple regression and now we are facing this problem. So it might be that you are not able to apply the OLS, then means because of this assumption you are not satisfied. But there are other things, like in few textbook, I think Madala or other I have read that just try to find this, that how much increase in the, like in this multicollinearity variance simulating factor, we are saying if it's increased by 10 then it's a problem, so r square, if it's more than 90 then it's the problem, otherwise it's not the problem. Similarly, there is a this technique, mean sum of square of errors, MSC. In the textbook you will find, and they will tell you that how much variance you can variation in the way this Brazil sum of square you can allow, means that won't create a big problem for you. Yes, it's true that this forecasting I think is not quite easy with this type of regression lines, because majority of observations are not nearby this regression line. But then thing is that how much of this change in variation we can tolerate. So there are few things you will find in literature in the heteroscedasticity, that it might be that you can test it, and then you have to fix few standards with the MSC technique, and then sometimes it's not a big problem, you can just go with that. Just report that there is a heteroscedasticity as well, and few other measures which you find in the literature. So there is no one simple answer to these as a remedial measures. You can try these bookish things, but while you have a practical model, the interpretation part is quite difficult. So that's why in all the remedial measures after these, they give you this noted information that your original model is now get changed, so it might be difficult to interpret, or these things. So that you have to keep in mind, that there are some problems, like these are the problems. Then there is the problem of spurious correlation, or we go beyond the two variable mode, we not know the priori which of the x variable is the we have to transform. So there are so many other problems with these sample images. So this is the heteroscedasticity. I try to took this topic in detail as multicollinearity, but still there is a scope. Always there is a scope. Means like I'm telling you, is MSE and other measures that how much variation in variance we can tolerate and after what level we have to decide. So that needed detailed discussions. That we need a time. That's the constant I have. Maybe next time in the advanced course series, if I got this opportunity to take it once again, I might be able to take few extra classes on these topics and few other practical things like this one I explained to you that it might be case. And now that's why I'm saying this yesterday as well, that while we study these courses regular like bachelor's and master's, and we want to study this practical, this applied part with these courses. So I never get satisfied. That means if I cram all these things, how it may help you or help me, I don't know. Means, but still we are doing the same thing in all the places. We're just doing this by cramming these methods, and what we think is that okay, we got it because we sorted this numerical example, but you only get this notion, actual situation, when you do it on a real data. Means, and that's the thing with the good university. Like in JNU, we have these assignments. It's not just some hypothetical. We have to pick a data from, and model from real data sets, and then we have to apply this all the techniques, all the methods, and then we realize that what are the limitations of these methods and where we need improvements and where you need to study more beside this uh, only 4 or 5 reference books, that what extra we have to read about those problems, and then only we get more detailed information about these methods, and then you can get this confidence that okay, how can we get rid of these problems, and is it appropriate to apply simple regression with this problem or not. So that exercise I hope you will do once this series will complete. I hope you study these in details and try to understand this problem. Okay, so thank you so much. And as I told you now, others are not attending the classes, so there is no, I don't think there is, I have to help them and sharing these videos with them. So I'll try to avoid this sharing part because most of them are not interested. So it's their choice. Means it's simply I can tell you it's like if you know athletic sports, athletic this 400 round curve, you picked a long run race like this series for 3 months, and now in between you are also joining other races, means some other course or some other activities. So this is means it's not the way we have to finish the race, right? Once just complete one race, then try to practice for the another. But what we do, we try to participate in all the races simultaneously, and that's the problem, that in the learning skills we need, these things need your time and effort. Means you have to, after the class you have to do it in practically in your research problem, then you have to read the chapter, then again you have to read if you are not getting under that particular point or any particular concept. Is it need a time. But if you are doing running a 4 different races at a one particular moment, so I don't know where you are going to finish in those races. I